Backed by science is one of Gatorade's core tenets, and one of the many ways the Gatorade Sports Science Institute supports the brand. GSSI's headquarter lab, mobile and satellite laboratories, and on-the-field testing enable GSSI to do leading research with the aim of providing athletes with advice and products that help them perform and achieve their goals. GSSI has 4 pillars, or 4 key work programs. The GSSI education team produces educational programs and materials for the continuing education of athletes, their influencers, and members of the sports science community. The education team has created a robust library of learning materials, including tips and handouts, posters, e-newsletters, sports science exchange articles, and performance playbooks. The Elite Athlete Service Team is dedicated to working with athletes, teams, and trade partners around the world to support their athletic performance. The team's work includes physical testing, nutrition, sports science consulting, and translation of data. Our innovation team looks to the future and focuses on potential functional ingredients and also new technologies that may enhance our research and service programs, as well as support brand initiatives. GSSI was originally founded as a research group, and the results of the research program have helped drive superior formulations in both product taste and functionality, presented at scientific conferences and published in peer-reviewed journals. GSSI's 4 pillars ensure Gatorade is continually backed by science.
All right. Hello everyone. Magandang hapon po sa inyo. Good afternoon. Good day to all of you. And welcome to another session of our GSSI webinar series 2022. Woohoo! Oh, teammates. Thank you guys. Thank you to my teammates here in our humble studio. My name is Chicky Reyes, and once again, I'll be your host for our session today. I hope all of you are in high spirits, good vibes. You know, it's the bear season already, and I just hope that in this an hour and a half of our session today, let's try to spread good vibes. Okay, let's try to get learn to a lot of new things. Say hello to our guest athletes here and there, and help each other live a healthy lifestyle. Okay, all right. So, una, how was the second session about 2 weeks ago? I hope you guys enjoyed it because we talked about what youth in sports and how values were formed during the early stage, diba? In fact, my key takeaways when I listened to Coach Darren Hartman and Prof. Molly Malyari, they would say, make it fun for the kids, you know, when you engage them in sports. Tapos when sila Richie and Ea Laure came into our kwentuhan, our chat, they said that their parents played a big role in molding them into the athletes that they are. And it's a continuous process that they wish the young athletes would be able to learn from them as they move forward. So, ito yung mga key takeaways ko lang. I hope you guys learned a lot from our second session. But for our third session, our third webinar session for 2022, we made it fun-filling. Okay ba yun? Fun na, fulfilling pa. Para po sa inyo lahat. But before we dribble that ball and dive into our session today, because right now it's gonna be women in power. Girl power tayo today. Before we dive into that, allow me first to remind all of you, by the way, 1,000 plus viewers already. Hello guys, I'll do a shout out later on. I'll try to do random shout outs. Paramdam lang po kayo dyan, comment section down there. Say hello and I will try to do some shout outs. Before we dive into our discussion today and we dribble that ball, sabi nga natin yan, let's remind our audience first, what's GSSI and what is this webinar series all about? So allow me to refresh your memories, okay? GSSI's long-standing mission is to help athletes and sports enthusiasts optimize their health and performance by bringing sports science beyond the lab, okay? It aims to what? Continuously find new ways, innovative ways to spread the science of hydration and nutrition. Let me say that again. Hydration and nutrition to coaches, nutritionists, athletes, and sports communities the world over. And so, in an effort to reach more sports enthusiasts despite obvious limitations, here we are today in the Gatorade Philippines Facebook Live for another GSSI webinar focused on sports and wellness topics led by our guest scientists and our guest experts. So for today's episode, I know you guys are excited. We'll talk about, as I mentioned, women in sports. How can we help our amazing female athletes optimize their performance through proper nutrition, hydration, and training? So these are just some of the questions that we hope we could answer in about an hour or so. And this topic is really relevant because we all know that our female athletes have proven themselves. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, the list is endless, di ba? I can talk about volleyball, we can talk about basketball, cycling, running, swimming, ang dami. Madami tayong pwedeng pagyabang ng mga Filipina athletes, female athletes, okay? Na naging inspiration ng ating kabataan. Not just in the Philippines, take note, but also globally. And this session aims to inspire other female athletes out there to fuel their greatness. So, for our agenda, what will we tackle this afternoon? We'll be tackling training for the female athlete, which will be discussed by sports physiotherapist Miss Christine Warren. Kung familiar yan, kasi she used to be part of the talk and text bench in the PBA. Okay, we'll tell you more about that later on. This session will also help us learn about nutrition and hydration considerations for the female athlete, which we will hear from GSSI's scientific advisor, Dr. Sam Moss. And then, we'll get to have an open discussion with our special guests. Alam ko yung mga volleyball players dyan, nagpaparamdam na kayo dito. You guys are gonna enjoy this. We have our volleyball heroes, Dani Ravena and Dana Wong. And not only that, but wait, there's more. We got a special appearance from none other than Alyssa Valdez. Huh? So loaded. It's gonna be a loaded afternoon today. So I hope you stick with us. Make sure that you have your papers ready, your ball pens ready. Make sure that you take down notes. And three reminders lang. Three quick reminders. Number one, we want this to be a two-way conversation. So we'd like to invite all of you to send your questions regarding our topics today at the comment box there. Type away. You know, kung wala kayong questions, do some shout outs, say hello to our special guests, and for the questions, we'll bring them out in the Q&A later on. Second reminder, meron tayong mga Gatorade prizes. Aha! I love this. So, we'll be giving out this nice shirt. Nothing beats Gatorade. Okay. Nice pair of Gatorade socks. Very nice. Ito nagamit nasubukan ko na to in running and doing my the daily workouts. Okay siya. Plus, we also have squeeze bottle. Very nice. If you're running, you can hold it. If you're cycling, you can put in your bottle cage. Now, all these items will be put in this very nice Gatorade bag that you can get later on when we flash 8 different sets of questions that you have to answer. And the first person to answer that correctly will bring home the bag, the shirt, the socks, and the squeeze bottle. Okay, so make sure that you stay with us till the end and listen to the presentation of our first two speakers kasi doon natin kukunin yung questions. All right? And lastly, third reminder, for those who'd like to receive a certificate of attendance at the end of our session, please make sure that you stay with us all the way till the end because after everything's been said and done, we're going to be flashing a QR code for you to sign up and to answer a quick survey. Take note, if we upload this later on Facebook and it's no longer the live version, you will not see that QR code anymore. So stay with us all the way till the end. See the QR code. Make sure that you answer that quick survey and get that certificate of attendance. All right. So without any further ado, let's jump into our third session because all of you are, I'm sure, excited. It's what, 4:11. Magandang oras ito. Make sure you have your pens and papers with you. Our first guest, allow me to introduce her this way. She is the partner and senior PT for Sistos. She has a master's degree in health science and studied sports physiotherapy at Sydney University. She was also the head PT lang naman, for the Talk and Text PBA team from 2009 up to 2011. Alam mo, when I used to see her in the Big Dome or in Mall of Asia before, no, kung saan naglalaro yung PBA, she doesn't mind staying in the background. Kasi ang focus niya yung athletes eh, making sure that all of them are okay to play the game. And she's also a former Adidas consultant from 2005 to 2010. And lastly, she was part of the Gatorade team that started sweat testing in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, these are amazing credentials, by the way. Let's all welcome, all the way from Hong Kong, Miss Christine Warren. Woohoo! Hi, Christine. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good afternoon, Chiki, on this wonderful sunny afternoon.
Alam mo, it's been quite a while since I've last chatted with you. So, allow me first to say or to ask you, alam ko wala ka sa Pilipinas. You're not here in the Philippines. You're in Hong Kong right now. How are things there in Hong Kong? How are you doing? How are you coping with the whole situation right now, Christine?
I'm doing well. I went to Manila to visit a couple weeks ago and suffered through 7 days of quarantine. But the good news is it's only 3 days nowadays, so less quarantine time. I miss Manila, and I love technology, although technology does not love me, but it allows me to work with my clients. The dropping the internet, but it allows
I
me to
know.
work with my clients in Manila. So training went on, even though there was COVID. I was able to do consultation. So you gotta love technology.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you know what? Sakto yung sinabi mo, no? Because people right now, just to share with you, Christine, we have over 1,000 people already watching us, and all of them are surely excited to hear what Christine Warren, that lady flying under the radar when she used to sit with the talk and text basketball players. What has Christine prepared for all of us? So, ladies and gentlemen, all sports enthusiasts all over, let me introduce again for our first speaker, Miss Christine Warren. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Chicky. Thank you, everybody. And let us start. First slide, please. Okay, so I'm based in Hong Kong, so please just ask questions. This is going to be a rapid presentation because I just wanted to share too much information, a lot of information, excited to introduce women to strength and conditioning. Next slide, please. So what are we going to answer today? We're going to answer strength training in athletes. Is there a gender gap? Let's see what the researchers have shown in the last 10, 15 years. Next slide, please. So just to start off, let's define strength training. It is a form of physical activity that is designed to improve muscular fitness by exercising a muscle or group of muscles. As the example here, it's a squat, multi-joint muscle exercise against an external resistance, which is your barbell. Lots of different external resistance, dumbbells, kettlebells, resistance bands. Take your choice. Next slide, please. Through my years of practice, there's always a lot of confusion on what strength training is. So it is not powerlifting and it's not bodybuilding, although both will have a component of strength and conditioning or strength training. So most of the questions are from mothers. Who are asking, will my child be bulky? No, they're not going to be bulky. Will my child be injured? No, because we are not going to push them like powerlifting to lift as much as they can. So it's more of just really exercising the muscle. These two are different in the sense that the program is different, although it does use the same exercises we do in strength training. Next slide, please. So, why do you need to do strength training? First of all, it enhances general health and movement. So it improves posture, it improves cardiovascular health, and even improves your mental health by improving your mood. Improves performance. This is why we do strength and conditioning for athletes. We increase their stamina, we increase their speed, we increase vertical jump height through strength training. We improve coordination and allow them to be able to move efficiently from point A to point B. Next is increases muscle mass. When you increase muscle mass, you increase metabolism. Also, when you have a lot of muscle mass, it's a deterrent for um, type 2 diabetes. It improves bone density because when you load, you put a little stress on the muscle, and that causes your bone cells to actually be stimulated and promote bone growth. Injury prevention. Next to improving performance, athletes would like to prevent injury. Being a sports physio, this is my main goal. I don't want to have injuries in the middle of the season. So, just an example, Stuart McGill, who published a lot of researches on low back pain, one of the best researches that he published is doing the side plank for about 2 minutes can prevent low back pain, can decrease the frequency of low back pain for those who actually have low back pain, and can prevent lower extremity injuries. Another thing that was well studied is the Nordic hamstring curl, and it is postulated to prevent ACL injuries. Last is faster injury recovery. When the muscle is strong and the muscle is injured, it's easier to recover because you're not going below baseline of weakness. The weakness is not as bad when you start off from a very strong base. Next slide, please. Again, I want to take that misconception away. For those who fear strength training that will cause injury or interfere with growth process. With children, the program is well designed that they are not going to be loaded with heavy weights, that it will interfere with growth plates. Now, I will be honest, there are injuries that can be caused by strength training, but most of the time that is because the program is not well designed and the athlete trained when he was already fatigued, or there's overtraining, or the strength training allowed the athlete to do something that he or she was not ready for. Next slide, please. I got this quote from this book because a few years back, me, my colleagues, and some of the orthopedic surgeons I worked with would actually say, let's hold off resistance training until they hit puberty. So, meaning for female athletes, they've gotten their menses, that's when they start resistance training, or the male athlete has started with a growth spurt because they felt that without the hormones, the resistance training is useless. But researchers now say that starting resistance training low load is actually advantageous. It enhances the general health of the child and it does promote muscle strength. Next slide, please. Okay, so we start with children 7 to 12. I know from watching Coach Darren, he actually said you can go a little younger, and I agree. As long as the child is able to understand instructions well and he will able to follow the safety protocols in any facility. We like to train the girls and boys together. It's more fun to do a group training, ball catching, one leg balance. It's active play. Like everything else, we say that make it fun for the kids. But for me, I say strength and conditioning should be fun so that you will keep coming back to it and keep doing it. You have to have fun. We focus on controlled movements. teaching the child how to squat properly, how to do a hip hinge properly, um, how to do slow and controlled movements that will translate later on when they have the muscle memory. Then we add speed and light resistance. Like all strength and conditioning programs, there is always the aim of improving motor skills and improving coordination. But with children, we like a group program, socialization, improve confidence and self esteem. Next slide, please. Okay, so adolescent age, the fun age where all your hormones come in. So let's start with females and let's start with the increase in muscle mass. So most females, researchers say, will be entering puberty at about an earlier age of 9 to 13 years old. The growth spurt is slower and the increase in muscle mass is lower than males. So at birth, we have about 25%, that's the average of muscle mass in our whole body, and it will increase to about 30 to 35% at puberty. Your peak strength happens at about 16 to 20 years old. Now, males, we see this, the sudden increase in height, the facial hair, and that's when they're in their growth spurt. They start a little later, 10 to 15 years old, and they will increase their muscle mass to about 40 to 45%. And you'll see that they actually peak at a longer period of time, 18 to 25 years old. Now, you can't go into the adolescent period unless you talk about hormones. So, for females, you have estrogen, and it is associated to faster muscle recovery. So, we're at an advantage at that point of estrogen, protective effect. Testosterone, for the boys, it builds muscle mass. In other words, their baseline of muscle mass is immediately higher than females because of testosterone. Fat accumulation. So, whatever fat you have in your body is dependent on three things: diet, exercise, and heredity. So, as females, and it's also because of estrogen, we have a third less muscle mass and two times the body fat. When I read this, oh my God, it's so unfair, right? But you have to understand that there's a metabolic health benefit to having estrogen because it lowers your risk for type 2 diabetes, faster muscle recovery, and you'll find out that it's also great for bone density growth. Women are weaker in the upper extremity. That is where we lack most of the muscle mass as compared to males. Now, average body fat, we are higher at about 25%. And you need that body fat to have normal levels of estrogen. So sometimes you hear of male basketball players, I think it was Jordan a long time ago, who had something like 5% body fat. A 5% body fat in a female will have detrimental health effects. Okay, next one. Females predominantly have slow twitch muscle fibers. But the beautiful thing with slow twitch muscle fibers is it's capillary dense, meaning it has more blood perfusion. Therefore, we are less susceptible to fatigue. We are able to do more reps in a given exercise program, and we're able to recover faster compared to males who have fast twitch fibers. And yes, they are very, in a sprint, the males will dominate. But after that short burst of energy, they will have a lot of lactic accumulation and will therefore require a longer period to recover. Next slide, please. So, age 20 to 35. I say this is the wonderful age when I felt like I was superwoman. It's the age where the most optimal muscle growth happens. And here you can see, studies have shown this. Muscle growth in males and females are virtually identical. We say relative rates because the males will already have the higher baseline, right? Relative strength because they have a higher muscle mass, obviously their strength is higher. But if you find someone who is of a male and a female with the same muscle mass and the same muscle strength, you put them, have them do a program exactly the same, then the muscle growth and the muscle strength gains will probably and most likely be almost identical. And they've shown that uh, the rate of strength gains in the upper extremity in females can be faster than males. Next slide, please. Okay, here is when Superwoman gets old. Sarcopenia is the involuntary loss of muscle mass. Studies vary, some of them 1%, some of them 2%. So let's just put it at 1% a year. So at age 35, when you lose 1%, you don't notice it. But you hit age 55 and you've lost 20%, then you suddenly realize, I am not as strong as I used to be. I get tired faster and I'm not as fast. After the age of 60, that rate actually almost doubles. And what you lose is mostly fast twitch fibers. So translating really to a loss of strength and speed. Do not worry. Studies also show that a good strength and conditioning program or being physically active and good nutrition can slow down this age-related problem. Next slide, please. Okay, injuries in women. Yes, women are more prone to injuries. They say 2 to 6 times more at risk on sports that require jumping and multi-directional movement. So that's basically football, basketball, volleyball, netball, rugby, pretty much all sports. Okay. So I've picked about 4 common injuries in women. Technically, ankle sprain is about equal for male and female, but I cannot not discuss ankle sprain because it's very common. Okay. Ankle sprains happen and we fix it. We can help prevent it in strength and conditioning by doing balance exercises, single leg exercises. Shoulder injuries, when I was working in More Lorenzo Sports Center, our female teams will immediately be given more scapular strengthening exercises, more rotator cuff and shoulder exercises to mitigate the occurrence of shoulder injuries. Knee injuries, it's close to my heart. I've built my career on knee injuries. ACL tears, kneecap problems, patellar dislocation, very common for males and females, at least in my line of work, it seems fairly common. But with women, we are at risk because of the wider hips. So you have wider hips and your knees will tend to fall in more than men. Most women, I say most women because I have met male athletes who are quads dominant. What does this mean? So the quads straighten the knee. And for most women, if they don't learn how to land properly, they land with a straight knee. And this predisposes you to ACL injuries. Now, because your front muscle is so strong, the tendency is the back muscles are weaker. So we try to be ahead of the injury by giving a lot of deadlifts, glute exercises, hip lifts, hip thrusts. Lastly, stress fractures, common in the foot, either in the fifth metatarsal, the toe, and then the middle of the foot, which is the arch. Why? Because usually it's the pounding. So I see this most on long distance runners, or sometimes volleyball players who do a lot of jumping in their training. So when I see an athlete with stress fractures, the first thing I will look at is the training program and how overtrained they are. And the next one would be, if I can't find an overtraining, then I will look into female athlete triad. Next slide, please. Okay, female athlete triad. The first one is eating disorders. Anorexia and bulimia is multifactorial. It is not in my realm to be able to diagnose it, but I would like to ask if my athlete was dieting extremely, meaning barely eating, sometimes using laxatives and those teas that make you go to the bathroom because they believe that by losing weight, it will improve their performance. Studies say it's more common with sports where the body image is highly rated. The next one is amenorrhea, meaning they don't get their period. So if I am worried about an athlete falling into the female athlete triad, in my history, I would probably ask, are you getting your menses? If you've missed, how many months straight? Usually 3 months straight not having a period, we need to explore that. Why? Because you don't get your period when your estrogen is low. Your estrogen is low when your body fat is very low. Okay. Now, when your estrogen is low and your body fat is low, it affects bone density. So you're losing bone density and therefore leads you to stress fractures. Next slide, please. Okay. Strength and conditioning considerations. Women do not need to train differently than men. There are no female only exercises and there are no male only exercises. There are only exercises that strengthen your core, that strengthen your glutes, that strengthen your shoulders. Now, this is a very interesting study. I wasn't really going to include this, but I figured women who are scared to lift weights, like this girl here, um, you can stay on a low load resistance, meaning 5, 10 pounds, 15 pounds for a squat. But then you have to do about high repetitions, like 25 to 35 reps per set. If you do a little heavier and you stay at the 8 to 10 rep, both exercises will give you increase in strength. But this study showed that a low load, high repetition program can also increase your fat and bone free lean muscle mass. So, if you do the low load, you're scared to lift heavy, go high reps, you'll still get the benefit of strength and you will get the benefit of building muscle mass. Very interesting study. Next slide, please. So, the difference in the program design for either a female or a male athlete, the difference would be because of the person's goal, the person's strength and weaknesses, the skill level in which he plays the sport he is playing, and to me, very important, injury history. So we can prevent the injury happening again. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you in the Q&A.
Um, Christine, thank you very much. The whole team here, where I am situated right now, we were all nodding and a lot of oohs, ahs. I think a lot of myths were actually presented on the table. Said, ay, hindi pala totoo yun. Ay, ganito pala yun. So, I'm interested to find out later on from our guests, especially the last few slides, with regard to
Yeah,
weightlifting, low load, high reps. Guys, if you took
yeah,
down notes, please, we want you. That comment section down there, type your questions away. We'll park Christine lang muna on the side
yeah.
because we have one more speaker, and then later on we'll have Christine and our next guest speaker for our Q&A. But once again, Christine, thank you so much. Always a pleasure
Thank
listening
you.
to your your lecture and relax ka muna dyan. Have a quick break. I know you got thirsty with your presentation and we'll get back to you. Okay? All right. So, um, again, as mentioned, type down your questions. Our team here in the webinar will be pulling them together. We'll make sure that the interesting ones will get to ask our speakers later on. But in the meantime, allow me to bring our second guest speaker. She is a GSSI scientific advisor and a senior lecturer in sports and exercise sciences at the University of Chester. Her expertise includes sports nutrition, female athletes, soccer, and handball. She is also performance nutritionist slash GSSI advisor to Manchester City Women Football Club. Wow. And last, she was a former head of sports science support to GB Handball youth squads from 2010 to 2015. And just like Christine, I know all of you are excited to learn a lot from our second guest speaker. Should I say broadcasting all the way from UK? Give it up for Dr. Sam Moss. Hello, Dr. Sam. How are you doing? I think you're on mute, Doc Sam. Let's try that again. Try that again. Let me once again. I'll welcome you again. Give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Sam Moss. Woo-hoo! Go ahead, Doc Sam. There you go. I think you're good. Oh, ooh,
Uh,
okay. We'll we'll try it again. We'll try it again, Doc Sam. We're experiencing some connection glitches. But don't worry. Well, it happens in this day and age of technology. So, have you tried unmuting your microphone, Doc Sam? Yes, you have. Okay, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Doc Sam, I'll ask you to kindly come out of the broadcast, go back in, okay? And then I'll bring back Miss Christine Warren first up until you can come back in so we can check your audio again, okay? I hope that that's okay with you. Christine, can we have you back? Are you still there? We'll check on Christine.
I'm here.
Yes, there you go.
Hi.
So while waiting for Doc Sam, I know that you've touched a lot on your presentation earlier, the focusing on athletes and focusing on the injuries. And we were chatting when we were having our technical rehearsal a couple of days back. You were mentioning to me during your time in the PBA, you never really get to watch the games, right? Because you don't even
Mm.
know the score, you don't even know who won or who lost. Because what was your focus, Christine, during your stint with the PBA?
The focus is always, someone is always coming out, particularly towards the fourth quarter.
Yo,
We're
yes.
always scared of cramps.
Oh, yes.
Fourth quarter is always the stressful time when someone has been playing, let's say, like Jimmy. Jimmy plays almost 40 minutes.
The
There
Mighty
was a
Mouse,
time
Miguel
Larry,
Ampag, yeah.
yes, Mighty Mouse. I'm dating myself. Most of my athletes are retired. Um, Larry, when he first entered joint talk and text, he wasn't doing long minutes. And I
Okay.
remember I'd be screaming. I'm like, oh my God, he's limping. Get him out. And Larry, who loves to play, actually went up to me. You don't tell them to get me out unless I'm dying. I'm going to play. I'm like, Larry, there's the next game. Okay. So that is always the thing. And the nice thing with the PBA, most of the time you get a replay.
Yeah.
But remember, I particularly when I was in Australia, my mentor was like, when we're covering games, if he asks you and you know what's happening in the game or you really know the score, he'd be like, you're not watching the players. Because sometimes injuries happen away from the ball.
Oh,
And
yes.
that
Oh, yes.
often is not seen in the replay.
Wow.
It's not
Okay.
always seen in
And
the replay what happens.
And you mentioned people cramping up entering the fourth quarter. Crucial talaga, no, Christine, hydration, making sure that you just not fuel your body, but you keep on refueling it, right? Because
Um,
you really have to do that. Otherwise, that lactic acid buildup will might cost you that open layup or that good look from the 3 point area, right?
and what people don't know is you actually hydrate 24 hours before the
Yeah.
game. Working with our nutritionist, and then I was lucky I ended up working with teams that we tested. So I'm kind of privy to the results. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of know already who I needed to watch out for. So I don't
Okay.
know if that's considered cheating, but I like to think of it as due diligence.
You know what, Christine? I'm looking at our chat box right now, and we got some interesting questions here. I'm gonna bring them out later on, okay?
Sure.
But we have Jessa Gubalani. I hope you can check that too, Miss Christine. If you could look at
Okay.
the chat box later on, we'll try to bring that out because nice question. Um, Ivelo, don't worry. We're gonna bring out our guest athletes later on. Huwag kayong mag-alala. We're gonna bring them out. But in the meantime, we're just waiting for Dr. Samos to check if she's already okay. All right. Eto na. Sige. You know what? Let me pull out some questions already. For you, Christine, and the ladies watching us right now would like to definitely hear what you got to say about this one. This one's coming from Kate. How do okay? We're gonna flash it on your screens. How do our monthly cycles affect strength training or workout in general? Meron ba? Meron bang
Okay.
epekto
I
yan,
will
Christine?
answer first as a Pilates instructor, and we
Okay,
work a
go.
lot on the core. So, as a certified Pilates instructor, we always say when you have your period, we go um, easier. The chances are, with all the hormones, the pelvic area tends to be weaker. So,
Okay.
that's one. Another one, but the research wasn't that great, but it was pointed out that you are stronger in the first part of your period,
Oh,
the luteal period, or like, but the first the first half, and that's when you can push. When you're about to get your period, ovulation and the coming of your menses is a time you kind of pull back because you are um, not as strong, or
okay.
recovery times tend to be longer than usual,
Hmm.
right? I would always go back to see every person is different. And also because all athletes will be different. You have athletes who have cramps, you have athletes who have nothing. And sometimes, I don't know if someone will ask this with Dr. Sam, a lot of a lot of those who are in women's health say your diet affects how you feel when you have your period. Like
Okay.
salty stuff will make you cramp, caffeine will make you cramp. I am of the um, mindset that you know your body. You know your body, and we
Okay.
follow how you feel, which is the same as what Coach Kale is saying. You listen to your body.
Okay.
Unfortunately, for athletes who are in competition, you can't exactly say, Sana I don't have my period because it's finals. Or I hope I don't get my period because it's finals. So that makes it a little harder if you are handling a female team, because that will
Okay.
always come out, the back pain, the joint pain that comes with having your period. I hope I answered
Okay.
you.
You know what? That was so rich in information, and then to the viewers out there, if you weren't able to catch all those things. Ang maganda dito kasi when we upload this later on, you can always go back and please make sure take note of that, especially yung sinabi mo, Christina, no, yung is the period about to come pa lang, or your ovulation, and involving the recovery and the strength, 'di ba? Because
Yes.
um as I say this to you, I've noticed that when we open the playing grounds again, a lot of women are into the multi-sport already. A lot are cycling, a lot are running, are
Yes.
swimming, doing duathlons, going volleyball, even playing basketball. So please make sure that you listen to what Christine mentioned earlier. I got one more for you. Okay. Actually, two questions, so Christine. So I hope you don't mind.
Sure.
What's the best way to avoid injury when we are starting out? Okay, the ladies are starting out. And how do we, talking about the females, maintain peak performance as we age, as the ladies age? Why am I saying this? Real talk tayo. I noticed
Yeah.
I hosted a couple of multi-sport events a couple of weeks back. The 40 and above age group category, daming ladies na sumasali, and I'm sure a lot of them would like to find out, um can they maintain those PRs or personal records, and as they age. So go ahead, Christine, those two questions.
Okay. First of all, I am always very sensitive to the expense of having a personal trainer.
Okay.
I know we can be expensive, but if you are starting out, find a trainer that understands not only your goals but your schedule. We women, we're multitask, right?
I agree. I agree. I have to agree.
We're
Shout out to
we're
my wife.
we
I
have
have
a
to agree. Yeah.
we have a career, we have kids, we run a household, I run a clinic. So trying to find the time to work out is hard. But if you have a professional, at least at the start, that will teach you essential exercises. What should I feel before I start? If you're
Yeah.
already like feeling sniffly, then maybe you should do a light program. Do a little walking, no weights, do body weight. The important thing is you don't, what I say, gung ho. Okay, start with one.
Uh-huh.
I'd say start twice a week and see how you feel. Let your body adjust.
Yeah.
And I will inject a little bit from your second question that if you're a little older and you have not worked out, just get the basics down. You know, one day at a time. Rome was not made in a day. And I say that you may not find the effects immediate. You're not going to lose 10 pounds in the first month.
Yeah.
Okay? And if the goal is weight loss, you will never outwork out what you eat. So, a nutritionist is the best thing you can have. And the nutritionist will tell you what to eat before your workout, after your workout, and to avoid the cravings of working out. Now,
Yeah.
the older women, unfortunately, we cannot um, stop time. But a very good book called The Athlete's Clock. And I use this because I used to joke all my athletes were all 35 and above. Jimmy Alapag, Ali Peak. So I keep telling them there is a way to
Mm.
maintain your peak performance. And that is actually a good program wherein you don't do as much as you used to do.
Yeah.
In other words, let's say, like, sorry, Jimmy, you're my example. Jimmy used to do at least 30 to 45 minutes of shooting even before we start practice or even before we start strength and conditioning.
I've
He's
seen that. I've
depleted.
seen that. Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen him
So
do that. Yeah.
we tell him, the assistant coaches will be like, Jimmy, 15 minutes quality. And then when we do plyometrics, because sometimes we do a jump program somewhere in the middle when there's a little bit of a break in the season. So if everybody does 3 sets, 4 sets, we make
Mm.
Jimmy do about two. He hates it. But eventually he's realized by keeping the intensity and
Mm-hmm.
keeping the
Mm-hmm.
volume shorter, we actually preserve him to be able to work out. So there is a way.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I am not the greatest in program design, and that's why I have Coach Kale as my partner. So my suggestions, ladies who want to start, because it's never too late to start
Oh yeah.
uh, an exercise regime. to have fun in a sport you used to play as a child, right? So just invest a little in someone who's going to guide you correctly into the program so that your body will last as long as you want it to last. Does that answer the question? I feel like
It
there's so
yes.
many things in my
I
head that
know,
I
I
feel
know,
like
I know.
I'm wasting
I
time.
No, no, I feel you. It's a good way to answer, Christine. Sabi mo nga, Rome wasn't built overnight. So to the ladies out there who are figuring out how to, the weekend warriors, right? Relax, enjoy it. No, in the same breath, those who have been doing it. Let me. I just want to borrow this quote here from Lionel Messi, right next
Yeah.
to me here in the Gatorade office. It says, "I start early and I stay late, day after day, year after year. It took me 17 years and 114 days to become an overnight success." So, 'di ba? I mean, different types of athletes. Eh. Are you the type who'd like to be physically fit, weekend warrior? 'Di ba? You want to exercise? Enjoy. But if you're the type na sila Dina Wong or Dani Ravena, 'di ba? There's no shortcut. You really have to
Oh
to put
yeah.
in the
There
work.
is no shortcut. There are
Okay.
the sina Dani are their superwoman's age. So
Oh yes.
the age also depends. Like I said, Mighty Mouse, he invested his time.
No,
But when we were getting a little, into the older side, there is an efficient way to stay Superman in
to
the
stay
older age.
Superman. Oo. And now in our show today to stay like a superwoman. Ah, okay. So,
Yeah.
Christine, I got one more for
Okay.
you. You know what we're gonna do? This would be my last question for you. We changed a bit, because of
Yeah,
our
sure, no
connection
problem.
issues earlier. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask you your final question. I'm gonna bring in Dr. Sam Moss to continue with the lecture. After that, it's gonna be her turn for Q&A. But still, don't leave us yet, okay? Because we still want to
Yes.
hear from you at the end. So, last question for you in this segment. Would it be okay to add cardio right after lifting weights? From Mary to. From Mary. Maganda to ah. Would it be okay
Yeah.
to add cardio right after lifting weights? How long would you advise us to do cardio? Dagdagan ko yung question. Or
Yeah.
should it be the other way around? Cardio muna and then lift weights. Ano bang may order ba yan, Christine?
Okay. I think it depends on you. I am the type that when I started working out, I hated cardio. I found it boring. I think I told my coach I don't do cardio, and he was like, "What? I don't do cardio." So, what we normally do is I get my weight training all done with,
Okay. Okay.
and also because remember I was running a clinic, I had my patients, I had talk and tech practice, and normally my workout is at about 6, 7 ng gabi at
Okay.
night.
Okay.
So also depending on how much time I have. So my trainer would always say, "Oh, are you gonna do cardio?" So if I say yes, we'll start with weights, and then I run the oval for about 20 minutes. If I have the energy,
Yeah.
I do a 12-minute 1 mile run. So it's fairly fast. Yeah, because I want to go home, right? I want to go home.
Aha, aha.
So um the premise of my coach in making me do my weights ahead of cardio is because my goal was to stay strong, be stronger for my work,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But if you're the type to like cardio, I would just say uh, do your cardio, particularly tempo runs at the start
Okay.
of your weights. Why? Because tempo runs, speed speed work would require you to be very fresh.
For
You need
your
your
for your
mind and
weights.
body very
Ah,
before
okay.
you do weights. Weights is,
Okay.
I don't want to say mindless. It's not mindless, but um, there's no component of speed unless you are in the part of your training that you are doing power, meaning a lot of push jerks.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yes. So, but if you're just doing it on your own, I'd say you can do your cardio as a warm up. If it's just gonna be like a light jog, like a 2-3 kilometer run, then do your
Uh-huh.
weights after. And also, if you're the type to like your weights, then do your cardio and your weights. I've had clients who hate the weights. So sometimes I'm like, let's do the weights first so that there's no excuse. Because if they hate the weights and I let them do the cardio first, I'm
Uh-huh.
tired. I really don't want to lift anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah,
my knee
Christine,
hurts. So many things
le- le-
hurt. And you
let me
skip.
inject. How about alternate? Let's say Monday cardio, Tuesday weights, Wednesday cardio, Thursday weights. Pwede ba yun? Is that
Yes,
something
you
that's
can do
that's
that.
workable too?
Yes. At the end, it's also a schedule thing. There are those who
No.
I have 3 hours a week to devote to my gym. It's MWF from this time to this time, and we need to like
Okay.
shoot everything in. And that's why I say this is where, when you're starting off and you're trying to balance and figure out how your body also responds,
Uh-huh.
you need a professional. The other thing is every other day is great because you need rest. That's the other thing. If you do cardio today, Tuesday weights, also consider that at some point you may need to have a rest day.
Recovery nga pala, no? Yeah, yeah,
Recovery. It's a big, big part of training.
yeah.
Does that
Wow, galing.
so so
Galing.
many
Galing.
variations.
No, no, that's very good, Christine, because the reason why I sabi ko, 'di ba, recovery nga pala. Kasi minsan when you exercise and the happy hormones kick in, you tend to feel like you're a superhuman, 'di ba? Na you forget to rest, no? But then again, your body is like a machine na kailangan din magpahinga. So
Yeah.
don't forget that, guys. Tayong table ko gumalaw ng konti, ayusin ko lang. All right. So, Miss Christine, thank you very much. Great sharing here with you. Yung binigay mo sa amin na lecture and then the questions that you answered to all our viewers here, over 3,000 viewers already. Uh, they're very thankful for the answers that you've provided to us. And wag mo kayong mag-alala. We're gonna bring in our guest athletes in a few. But in the meantime, Christine, I'll park you in our
Yeah.
virtual backstage
Thank
because
you,
it's time.
Chicky.
Thank you, Christine. I learned a lot. I always do every time I chat with you. So thank you. Um, Viewers, I hope you were able to jot down because we might be asking questions later on what Christine shared with you, and you might win our cool Gatorade prizes here. Okay, back to our second guest. Once again, let me introduce her, GSSI scientific advisor and a senior lecturer in sports and exercise sciences at the University of Chester. Her expertise includes sports nutrition, female athletes, soccer, and handball. Also a performance nutritionist slash GSSI advisor to Manchester City Women Football Club. And last, she was a former head of sports science support to GB Handball Youth Squads from 2010 to 2015. And she's ready to share what she has prepared this afternoon, all the way from UK, Dr. Sam Moss. Woo! Hi, Doc
Hello, can you
Sam.
hear me
There
now?
you go. Yeah.
Yes!
So
I love
be-
technology. I've switched laptops,
before
so we're good to go.
before I let you go on your presentation, I know we got a 7 hour gap from UK where you're right now. How are things there from your place, and how are things going in spite of our limitations because of the pandemic?
So in the UK, very early at the moment. Well, not so early now, 10 o'clock. So the mood generally actually is a bit somber because we lost our queen last week. So big transition period at the moment. Lots of coverage on that. But for me personally, we'll turn it to a bit more of a positive note. I'm brilliant. I'm really happy to be with you today and contribute on such an important topic, I think, something that's really close to my heart as well. So I hope that people can learn something from my talk today as well. And thanks for
Dr.
waiting
Sam,
around so long.
Dr. Sam, our over 4,000 people are excited to hear what you have prepared for all of us. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, virtual round of applause, please, for Dr. Sam Moss. Take it away, Doc.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for listening in today. I hope that I can do justice to this really, really important topic. So if we could bring the first slide up, please. Thank you. And the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today all about nutrition and hydration for the female athlete. Next slide, please. So there are 4 key areas of nutrition that the female athlete needs to consider for optimal health and well-being. And these are energy availability, macronutrients, micronutrients, and hydration. So the aim of my talk today is to provide you with information about how female athletes should approach each of these areas, alongside some practical tips as well to do this effectively. Next slide, please. But before we jump in, I want to provide you with some context about the current state of play with regard to research in female athletes. So in a review published in 2021, it was shown that just 6% of mainstream sport and exercise sciences research was conducted solely on women, compared to just 31% solely on males, and then 63% which use a mix of both males and females. And the authors concluded that at present, most conclusions made from sport and exercise science research might only be applicable to one sex. So not having female-specific research could have a range of detrimental consequences, which at best might lead to suboptimal performance, and at worst might cause significant detriments to the health and well-being of females. So as you listen to this talk, it's important to recognise that we don't have all the answers yet, but there is a drive within the sports science community to better understand the female athlete and their nutritional requirements. So here is what we do know then. Next slide, please. So our first up is energy availability. Next slide, please. And this is quantified as the amount of energy that can be used for body functions after accounting for the energy used for exercise. And to break that down, for an athlete, they need to have sufficient energy to fuel both their exercise demands and their key body processes. And by this, we're referring to anything that keeps the body in good health. So, for example, one process the body has to do all the time is regulate our body temperature. Another process that requires energy is the menstrual cycle that we've already heard about today. And without sufficient calorie intake, these processes that keep the body healthy begin to struggle. They become impeded. So, for example, as we heard from Christine, there's been decades of research that has established the impact of low energy availability on what we call the female athlete triad. So specifically on the menstrual function and on bone health. But we're now learning that having low energy availability can impact a much larger range of health parameters. So these are featured on the left of this slide here. And then also on performance parameters, which are featured on the right here. So these effects now are encompassed under the term relative energy deficiency in sport, or RED-S. Next slide, please. So how much of a problem is low energy availability for female athletes then? Well, a 2019 study conducted in 1,000 athletes in more than 40 sports showed that 47% were at risk of low energy availability states. There's also lots of research in sport that shows a considerable proportion of female athletes will experience a nutritional deficiency during their career, although they appear to be most common in athletes competing in endurance sports, aesthetic sports, and weight-making sports. So it is a significant issue, and one that athletes and practitioners need to be aware of. Next slide, please. So to provide you with an example, I want to share some findings from professional female soccer, or football, as you might call it, based on a study that we conducted in the Women's Super League, which is the top football league for women in England. And in the interest of time, I'll just focus on the results of that study for now. So in short, we found that only 23% of players had optimal energy available, meaning that 77% of players were not ingesting enough calories to fuel the demands of training and competition, in addition to maintaining their body processes. But from the figure that's here, you can see that the number of players in low energy availability gets higher as the exercise demands increase. So if you focus on the grey bars, we can see that none of the players were in low energy availability on the rest days, but this increased to 38% on the light training day when there was just one session, to 58% on the heavy training day and where there were two sessions, and then increased again to 62% on the match day. So to reiterate that there seems to be a real difficulty to consume enough calories as the demands of exercise increase. So clearly making sure that you increase energy intakes during heavy training periods is really important. Next slide, please. So when we looked more closely at the players' nutrition records, one thing that stood out was the low carbohydrate intake for a considerable number of players. So each of these bars represents a player, and I've indicated in red those who were ingesting below 3 grams per kilogram of carbohydrate per day. And if you remember from Liam's previous talk, the first one in this series, this is the absolute minimum amount of carbohydrate recommended for light activity. So it's clear that from the majority of players that they weren't ingesting enough carbohydrate relative to these exercise demands. So that was interesting because their protein and fat intakes were in line with recommendations. So upping the intake from carbohydrates seems to be what's necessary here. Next slide, please. And it's interesting that these low carbohydrate intakes seem to be common in women's football. And this is based on data from many different countries over a long period of time. And it's been proposed that many players might have a fear of carbohydrates. So these are some quotes based on interviews with players, nutritionists, and sports scientists in the UK, which all suggest some players have strong negative connotations with carbohydrate. So with all of this in mind, it's important that we work with athletes so that they understand the importance of energy availability, and particularly the need to eat enough calories and enough carbohydrate to support their exercise demands. In addition, athletes should be directed to a qualified dietitian or sports nutritionist to help them with achieving their goals where that's possible. Next slide, please. So this next section will focus on macronutrient recommendations. And at current, these are not different between males and females. So I'll just do a quick whistle stop tour, and I'd advise you to revisit the talk by Liam for a more detailed picture. I will highlight where there could be some menstrual cycle effects, but it will be a very quick whistle stop tour. So next slide, please. Protein recommendations for female athletes are between 1 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. So as a reminder, if you have a body weight of 70 kilograms, you simply multiply 70 by 1.2 and 2.0 to get the lower and upper limits in grams. Distributing that intake evenly between meal times, as we can see in the diagram on the right here, is advisable to get the best adaptations from your training. Now, interestingly, there is some early work showing that it could be beneficial to alter protein intake depending on the phase of the menstrual cycle. This work has shown there to be higher rates of muscle protein breakdown in the second half of the menstrual cycle, which we know is the luteal phase. And this might warrant higher protein intakes during that phase. However, we simply don't have enough data yet to alter these general recommendations, which is why they are the same at the moment. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, as we heard from Liam earlier in the series, the total amount of daily carbohydrates recommended will range from 3 to 12 grams per kilogram, depending on the duration and the intensity of exercise being performed. So before exercise, the recommendations are to ingest a high carbohydrate meal in the 3 to 4 hours prior, and the amount required is between 1 and 4 grams per kilogram, with the range accounting for how demanding the exercise will be. So for exercise that is long in duration, or if the majority is performed at high intensity, then the upper range is recommended. There is some female-specific research again showing that the release of glucose by the body during exercise is impaired in the second half of the menstrual cycle, suggesting that it might be especially important for females to have this high carbohydrate meal when in the luteal phase, or that second half of the menstrual cycle. So this will ensure that females have sufficient carbohydrate to fuel any exercise. Then ingesting 30 to 60 grams per hour of carbohydrate during exercise can be beneficial for durations lasting more than an hour, or if the athlete is trying to achieve a performance goal. And then after demanding exercise, one of the key goals is to replace the body's carbohydrate stores. And this can be achieved via intakes between 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram each hour, up to 6 hours in total. And once again, following that really strict strategy might be beneficial for female athletes whose exercise demands are difficult, or those who have a quick turnaround time between sessions or competitions. But if these conditions don't apply, then ingesting a high carbohydrate meal in the hours after will likely be sufficient. Next slide, please. And then for our final macronutrient, it's recommended that athletes consume 20% of their total calories from fat. And doing so will reduce the chance of any deficiencies in essential fatty acids and vitamins that are fat soluble. And importantly, we know that fats are a great source of calories too, so can help prevent the calorie deficit that we have seen is prominent in many female athletes. Next slide, please. So now on to some hydration recommendations. Next slide, please. Once again, these are not different between men and women. So although women tend to sweat less than men due to their smaller body mass and surface area, the advice remains the same as we heard about in that first episode, because it accounts for body mass. So one consistent finding in menstruating females is the increase in body temperature that occurs during that luteal or second half of the menstrual cycle. So in theory, if there's a female exercising in a hot environment during her luteal phase, we might think that this would place her at a higher risk of heat illness and dehydration. However, in reality, studies have found that the female body releases hormones to ensure that more fluid is retained. And there's no evidence either that females are at an increased risk of heat illness. So in summary, the female body is really clever in that it undergoes a number of processes to ensure that hydration status remains similar throughout the menstrual cycle. Next slide, please. Our final stop then is going to be about micronutrients. So the micronutrients that are commonly deficient in female athletes are calcium, vitamin D, and iron. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So getting enough calcium is really important for good bone health. This contributes, as we heard already, to reducing our risk of bone fractures, which can be common in female athletes. Now, if you're looking to measure calcium, the best way is via dietary records. And results from these types of studies show that females tend to ingest below what is recommended. fallen short by about 200 to 300 milligrams per day. But unfortunately, we don't have many large-scale studies showing whether this is also the case in female athletes yet. Next slide, please. So therefore, the generic recommendations from the Institute of Medicine recommend females receive 1,000 milligrams per day for those aged 19 to 50 and 1,200 milligrams per day for those aged 51 and older. For female athletes, it's been suggested that in cases of insufficient calcium intake, that 1,500 milligrams per day should be ingested to restore any deficiency. So to bring those athletes back up to a baseline. And one important practical tip to remember here is that the gut can't absorb more than 500 milligrams of calcium at once. So therefore, calcium intake should be spread throughout the day to maximize the absorption, to ensure that it is actually absorbed into the body. Next slide, please. Luckily, there are many excellent sources of calcium that we can obtain from our diet, including milk, yogurt, cheese, fish. Obviously, some of these foods might be restricted in your diet. So, or if you are lactose intolerant, it's going to be more difficult for you to achieve this. So in those cases, having a supplement might be advised in order to reach those recommendations. Next slide, please. So on to vitamin D, and this is an essential micronutrient for so many body processes, including bone health, muscle health, immunity, and lots of others. So we know that we can't synthesize vitamin D ourselves, so we need to get it from the sun or from a small number of dietary sources. However, a large proportion of female athletes, so typically around 33 to 42%, have suboptimal levels. And those at greater risk include those playing indoor sports, those living at latitudes with low sun exposure, and obviously those tested in the winter months. So I know that the sun can be pretty intense there in the Philippines, so we might assume that this won't apply to you. However, based on a recent study done by the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, 3 out of 5 office workers were vitamin D deficient, which they highlighted might be due to an increasingly more time spent indoors. So the current recommendations proposed by the Endocrine Society are to supplement with 1,500 to 2,000 IU to maintain musculoskeletal health. And as Christine said, that will also help to offset some of those sarcopenia, some of that sarcopenic muscle loss that we might observe as we get older. Next slide, please. So finally, iron. Iron deficiency is a problem for between 15 to 35% of female athletes, although some studies actually show much higher prevalence values of over 50%. Next slide, please. Those at elevated risk for iron deficiency include individuals following restricted diets, so vegans, vegetarians, perhaps those also omitting red meat. Athletes whose training involves repetitive ground strikes like runners, but also endurance athletes more widely, and also those with heavy menstrual bleeding. Now, heavy menstrual bleeding is still considered a taboo subject for many people, but if it's affecting female athletes and it's making them iron deficient, then it's definitely something that we need to become more comfortable talking about. And in 2016, findings from a survey showed that it is indeed very prevalent, experienced by 37% of elite athletes and 36% of marathon runners. However, only 22% had previously sought medical advice, showing that we need to do more to help individuals here. Next slide, please. So if you're a coach or an athlete and you're concerned about iron deficiency, the first step is to get screened by a qualified medical professional. And obtaining a complete understanding of an individual's iron status requires assessment of 13 blood markers. Some try to do it with 2 or 3, but 13 is required to have that complete understanding. So appropriate expertise is necessary. Then, depending on the severity, that treatment plan from the expert might include increasing iron intake via nutrition as a first step with help, and it might then extend to taking oral supplements to having intravenous injections in very special cases. But obviously, always listen to your medical practitioner here. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, female athletes should be aware that the main nutritional factor that underpins everything else is energy availability. So ensuring that you are eating enough calories and enough carbohydrate, especially during periods of increased training and competition, can't be overlooked for good health and performance. Generally, we aren't at the stage yet where we're providing females with different hydration and macronutrient guidelines compared to males. But as more research is done looking at menstrual cycle effects, it's possible that these will change in the future. And finally, as iron, vitamin D, and calcium are commonly suboptimal in female athletes, getting tested is recommended so that any necessary interventions can be provided here. Next slide, please. So I'd just like to end by saying thank you so much for listening, and I hope that the talk was useful for you.
Dr. Sam Moss, we really appreciate what you have shared, and I was checking the chat box while you were doing your lecture, and I'd like to I'll speak in the vernacular, Dr. Sam, and I'll translate it in English for you. Dun po sa mga nanonood, maraming salamat po dun sa mga nagrespeto po sa ating mga speakers at maraming natutunan sa araw na ito. This is for you po. Salamat po for patiently waiting. We'll have our guest later on. So, Doc Sam, I just thanked our fellow Filipinos who they've been giving nice comments about your presentation because they learned a lot from what you have
Thank you
shared.
very much.
So, I got a couple of questions here that we got from our fans. I hope you don't mind, or our viewers. And you mentioned two words: energy availability, because your topic is nutrition and hydration considerations for the female athlete. And I'd like to pull this question out coming from Rebecca. She said, "How can we educate our athletes to make sure they don't have low energy availability? How do we do that? How can we educate our athletes to make sure that they don't have low energy availability?" Because I would hear some athletes, both male and female, they sometimes think that uh, l- they put losing weight ahead. They don't put in enough um, nutrients in their body when they do their exercises. So specifically for the ladies, how can we help them, our female athletes, to make sure that they don't have low energy availability?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult problem. So culturally, I think that many females have, not all females, but it's body image issues within females are certainly more prominent. And trying to move away from that and put a focus on eating enough seems to be really problematic across many parts of the world. So for me, I think that the education part is about making athletes aware of, first of all, of the benefits that they can gain from eating
Okay.
more. So obviously that is going to translate to beneficial health, and also you could see many improvements in performance as well. But also making them aware of the consequences of not fueling effectively. So we spoke a little bit before about the female athlete triad, or that concept, relative energy deficiency in sport. So not having enough calories has been found to influence an individual's menstrual function, bone health, making them at greater risk of fractures for the future. And also lots of other factors, including immunity, mood state, fatigue. There's more and more research that is being gathered now, providing evidence that it's not just, menstrual function and bone health that is affected here. There's a whole array. So one of the things that we try to do is work with athletes via workshops to deliver some of that information. But then also provide one-on-one sessions. Obviously, though, the education isn't enough to change behaviour. So we could tell everybody to do something and tell them all the reasons why, but sometimes it just doesn't translate to actually a direct behaviour change. So we need to provide athletes with the practical tools that they need as well. So that might be looking at what they eat on a day-to-day basis, looking at the environment that they're in as well, and really providing, practical tips and practical tools to enable them to ingest enough calories. That becomes really, really difficult, for example, for endurance athletes or those athletes that are doing high volumes of training. Actually being able to eat enough is really hard work for a lot of people, including myself. I'm constantly trying to find ways to eat enough so that I'm maintaining weight and exercise that I do. Trying to do that in endurance athletes is more difficult, will require expert help perhaps.
Doc Sam, quick follow-up question. A lot of ladies would also ask, can I do is it okay to work out, do a fasted workout? I wake up in the morning. My last meal was probably 8 or 9 p.m. last night. I wake up at 5:30, do my cardio or my weightlifting. Is it okay that I jump into my workout without having anything in my tummy? Would that deprive me of the energy that I would need to go about my
So
workout routine?
So I think there's a time and a place for different workouts. If you are trying to increase adaptations to training, then doing a fasted workout can be very beneficial. I think the key thing to remember is that you will need to refuel properly after that training session. Yeah, so as long as you eat enough afterwards, there's no harm in doing a fasted workout if you are used to that. If your body is used to training in that way, that's completely fine.
Okay. Next question, Dr. Sam Moss. What is the role of Gatorade in developing muscles? This is coming from JC.
Developing muscles. I can talk perhaps more widely about the role that Gatorade has in training practices and what we're doing in that sense. Would that be okay?
Go ahead.
The specific question about muscles perhaps is it can be covered more widely. So we as Gatorade, we're involved in a number of different clubs within the Women's Super League. So previously we worked with Arsenal Women's Football Club, and then more recently now with Manchester City Women. So we've provided a lot of nutritional and also hydration support via workshops and sweat testing. But then, as I also mentioned earlier in the talk, we try to conduct research projects that will directly influence practice. So the projects that we're doing at the moment with Manchester City is led by the PhD student, Rosie Anderson, who's doing a brilliant job. And she's looking to understand how the menstrual cycle might influence performance, recovery, sleep, well-being. And the aim of trying to understand that is then to hopefully translate that information to each individual player. So if, say, for example, they have really terrible premenstrual symptoms before they are before their menstrual cycle, then we can come up with appropriate interventions to help them to better manage that. So yeah, we are working within that space of menstrual cycle, and generally trying to influence training through that as well.
Okay. I got one last question, Dr. Sam, before we let you go. I know you're a busy person there in UK as well. This is coming from you mentioned Manchester, right? A fan of Man City and Man U. Let's talk about football. Is there a specific training regimen and diet that the athletes follow to stay game ready? And even if it's football, I think even the volleyball players out there would be able to relate to this question. Go ahead, Dr. Sam.
Yeah, so they are very, very lucky at Manchester City in that they have all of their meals cooked for them. So they will arrive on site, for example, and they will have breakfast. And there is a whole range of options available to them. So it's not prescriptive in the sense that they have to have this, but obviously the principles of having carbohydrate, protein, and fat in a balanced meal is I guess a thread that runs through. So obviously the fueling requirements will have to change depending on whether they have a intense training session, whether they have a match. So many of the athletes will tend to have a high carbohydrate meal before an intense training session. So a lot of the players will choose things like bagels, pasta beforehand, and then after the training session, there's a focus on carbohydrate and recovery. And again, there's lots of options for them there. So it's really about each athlete deciding on what they want to fulfill the nutritional principles. Yeah, so and I think that's a really important message to get across. It's not a one size fits all for every athlete, and you need to have what works for you in terms of how it makes you feel as well, whether you can digest it properly, and whether you can perform well as well. Oh, Cheeky, I can't hear you.
You really have to tailor fit it to the right athlete, right? Whatever they need to put inside their bodies before, during, and after. So, Doc Sam, a fantastic way to answer that question. Uh, I'd like to bring in Miss Christine Warren as well. We've reached the portion of this segment wherein we say thank you to Christine, thank you to Dr. Sam Moss. But again, before I let you go quickly, rapid fire here. Um, your final message to our viewers. We'll start with Miss Christine Warren. Christine, go ahead.
I thank you everybody for attending our webinar. Stay active. Don't be afraid to lift weights. And from what I learned with Dr. Sam, don't be afraid of carbohydrates. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I love that. Don't be afraid of carbohydrates. Dr. Sam, your message to our over 6,000 viewers right now.
Wow. So my message would be to make sure you are eating enough and that your eating is tailored to your training demands. So the more that you are training, the more that you need to eat at a very basic sense. And also remember to stay hydrated for every session.
Fantastic. Christine Warren, Dr. Sam Moss, thank you very much. And I'd like to invite the both of you, if you could still stay with us in the background, if you could, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions in the chat box. So if you have the time, maybe you can throw in an answer to our viewers out there. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Christine Warren and Dr.
Thank you.
Sam Moss, thank you so much. And stay
Thank you.
safe, Christine, in Hong Kong. Dr. Sam Moss, stay safe in UK, and hope to see you guys again, if not face to face, virtually for another session, right? Bye, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so we're moving on to our next segment. Looking at our fans here, yes, ito na po yun. Yung inihintay ninyo, we're gonna bring out our guest athletes. But quick reminder for our viewers, meron pa ho tayong pa-contest mamaya. We have prizes. 8 winners will be chosen later on to bring home the Gatorade shirt, the squeeze bottle, the pair of socks, and the Gatorade backpack. So, eto na. The moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to introduce our guest athletes. Let's start with ito muna kasi yung pamilya nito, grabe. From the dad to the mom to the kuyas all the way to her ay talagang super athletes. A former Ateneo Lady Blue Eagle, now a libero in the PVL team, the Akari Chargers. Without any further ado, Filipino fans, volleyball fans, let's all welcome Dani Ravena. Hello,
Hi
Dani.
everyone! Hi Sir Vicky! Hi to the
Kamusta ka?
viewers!
Kamusta ka? Excited to
Okay
go? Ready
naman
to
po.
go?
Very excited and just preparing the best for the pros. So excited talaga.
We're excited for your career too. We're very excited, and you're such an inspiration to a lot of athletes. So, Dani,
Thank you, thank
before
you.
we jump sa ating kwentuhan, sa ating chat, I'll bring in another, actually your fellow Lady Eagle, to join us this afternoon. Well, up next, we have the best setter from UAAP Season 80. Di ba? And now a member of setter of the Premier Volleyball League for Choco Mucho Flying Titans. Let's all welcome, eto na, drum roll, Miss Dina Wong! Woohoo! Hi, Dina! Ay, naka-mute ka yata, Dina. Let's check it again. Naku, iniintay pa naman ng mga fans mo yung bati mo. Try it again. Ay, so meron tayong konting tech. Let's check with our back room. Kaya ba nating i-check? How about you, Dina? Can you try to unmute from your end? Ayun, naka-mute ka pa rin no? So, we'll do it this way. Alam mo, why don't you log out quickly, then come back in, okay? Then, aabangan ka ng aming team in the back end. In the meantime, balik ko muna si Dani, ha? And then, don't worry guys, don't worry. Quick lang yan. Walang 1 minute yan kay Dina. Ha? Sanay na sanay yan. Dani, ikaw muna. Before I bring back Dina Wong back in, nasan ka ngayon? Where are you right now physically? Are you in Manila? Are you in your
Yes,
residence?
just
Where are you
at
at?
home. Actually, I'm just at home po, preparing for our flight tomorrow. We're facing Ateneo for an exhibition game in Iloilo and in Bacolod. So very
So
excited for
pupunta ka,
that.
Iloilo and Bacolod. So
Yes,
chance
yes,
for you to
yes, I
invite yung
hope.
mga Ilonggo tsaka mga Negrense nating mga
Yes,
kaibigan.
mga kababayan sa Iloilo, hello, uwi na ulit kami. Now, before I used to go there and play for Ateneo, at least ngayon, Ateneo pa rin, pero I'm gonna play for Akari. So, super excited and sana ma-enjoy niya yung game namin. Very excited to play for you guys. Finally, makikita niyo na po yung Akari team and sana safe and healthy lahat papunta doon. So,
Dani,
see you guys
saan ang
there.
game? Saan ang actual game? Saan ba lalaruin?
Sa
Would you know?
sa Iloilo po, sa University of San Agustin, and then in
Okay.
Bacolod sa Lasal Gym. So,
Sa
Lasal
Lasal Gym.
Bacolod Gym.
And what
Yes.
time? Is it okay to share the details? What time yung mga laro ninyo? Do you have information already?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's at 7, but we still have meet. Finally, mamimit na namin yung mga fans na Ateneo and also for
Nice.
Akari Chargers.
Nice.
Yes.
So may meet and greet pa pala no for your
Yeah.
fans, for the volleyball fans there. Okay, that's beautiful. So, okay. Balik na natin si Dina Wong para mas masaya yung kwentuhan nating tatlo, no? Dina, there you go. Mag-hello ka muna sa lahat ng fans mo, Dina.
Ayan, hello po sa inyo lahat. Maayong gabi po sa tanan.
Nice. So, mayong gabi sa iyo, Dina. Are you in Manila or in Cebu? Where are you right now?
Manila po, sir.
Manila. Okay. So, ito na. Your fans have been clamoring. Wow. Check this out. Over 7,000 na nanonood sa atin, Dani and Dina, and they'd love to hear from you guys. So, Um, gusto ko isa munang, meron bang specific group, name yung mga fans ninyo? Dani, meron bang, mga Dani Fans Club diyan? Batiin mo muna ulit sila bago tayo mag-question and answer dito. Go ahead, Dani.
Uh, Team Dani. Super unique nung name. Team Dani. Hello sa inyo guys. Thank you for watching and to those who nag-support sa amin nila. Dian, also Ate Lai. Hello, sana enjoy niyo yung webinar today.
Dina, ikaw naman, yung mga fans ni Dina Wong, kanina pa sila naghihintay sa'yo eh.
Medyo, well, actually, to everyone na lang who have supported not just me, syempre sa ibang teams, bukod sa Chocomucho, and hopefully this coming PBL, can't wait for you guys, and hope you continue to support us no matter what. So, ayan.
Excited kami yung PVL. Galing ano, Dina and Dani, how the sport of volleyball has really grown, 'di ba? Exponentially by leaps and bounds dito sa Pilipinas. So, unang tanong ko sa inyong dalawa, I'll start with Dani, then I'll go to Dina, same question, no? But ano bang anong pakiramdam, anong masasabi nyo being a female athlete here in the Philippines? Kasi pag naglakad kayo, pag tumungtong kayo sa hard court, when I would cover games, grabe no, parang yung following ninyo, they really cheer for you, they really root for you. How does it feel, Danny and Dina, to be an athlete here in the Philippines? Danny, I'll start with you.
Oh, definitely because, coming from a very athletic family, always under the limelight, parang nakapanibago pa rin. Kasi, when I was a kid, I would just like dream of playing for Ateneo, and then now that I played for Ateneo, nagulat ako na even off the court, even beyond volleyball, there are still people following us, following me, na parang they want to know what's going on in my life. So I'm very, very blessed, Jen, that I got to play in this generation because, my mom would always tell me na sobrang swerte lahat ng volleyball players ngayon kasi sobrang dami yung fans at daming support during their time. Super konti lang daw nanonood sa Rizal Memorial, tapos
Aha.
mga relatives pa siguro more than the fans, relatives nila yung nanonood. And now, just to see how big volleyball is, in the Philippines, super, super blessed. And, we just want to inspire a lot of, not just women athletes, but also a lot of Filipinos athletes as well.
Ganda nung shinare mo, Danny, and Dina, I'll pick it up from what Danny shared with all of us. Inaasahan mo ba to, Dina, na syempre nung bata ka, gusto mo lang talaga mag-volleyball, gusto mo lang maglaro. Then all of a sudden, you jump into center court, eto ka na sa UAAP, then boom! Ganun kadami, sobrang dami agad ng fans mo. Were you expecting this, Dina?
Not at all, sir. Really not expecting it. Kasi, well, up until today, nakaka-overwhelm pa rin siya. But at the same point, you feel really grateful because it opens up a lot of opportunities
Oo.
na akala mo hindi mo makuha from before. So, like what Danny said, you feel really blessed, and you get to really inspire other people, not just people who play sports, also from all ages, bata man, matanda man, you really get to inspire them na even you don't know why. So that's really me personally how I really feel. So I guess from all athletes as well.
Parang no, parang mga superheroes din kayo, 'di ba? Dahil a lot of people look up to you lalo na yung mga kabataan, no, the younger generation would like to be a Dani Ravena and a Dina Wong someday. I'm sure they did love to be like you guys. Okay, usapang training tayo, ha? Usapang training.
Danny, go, Charis.
Bawal!
Usap
Yes ka naman!
Hindi, huwag kayong mag-alala. Hindi naman natin ilalabas yung mga secret ng training ninyo, ha? Kasi, di ba, we've heard from the experts, di ba? Kala Doc Sam, kala Christine, hindi pwedeng one size fits all eh. Ang nutrition, ang training. I'm sure may iba-ibang regimen yan, di ba? Without revealing your secrets, sa kung paano maging mahusay na Dani at Dina. Ikaw, Dani, I'll start with you again. What's the most important part of your training regimen? Sige nga.
Oh, definitely for me, my diet. What I eat every day. With our PT coach Grace, hi Coach Grace. She really helps me a lot because I'm a very snacky eater, so I eat a lot of snacks.
Naku!
Hindi ako
Talaga?
hindi ako big meals. I'm not a big rice fan, but I do eat a lot of snacks, and sometimes mas nakakompensate niya yung diet ko. I'd rather, sabi ni Coach Grace, kailangan maayos yung kain because, it just doesn't end in training. Even at home, you can really improve your health, improve yung longevity mo as a player. Important yan for me. Kahit, I'm still young now. Syempre, I'm really hoping that I get to play for a lot of more years to come, hopefully. So, I have to think about long-term goals also.
So mas snack ka palang mas snack ka palang player.
Yeah. I
Hindi ka
think
naman
alam po
inaagawan
ni
ng
Dina
snack
yan.
ni hindi ka naman inaagawan ng snacks nila Kiefer tsaka 30.
Hindi naman. May kanya-kanya po.
Iba.
May name.
So, ano lang, curious lang ako, Dani. Ano yung mga favorite snacks mo? Sige nga, para
Oh
yung
no,
mga fans mo rin matuwa.
anything na chocolate. Yan yung mga fans ko po
Sweet.
after the game. Sila po talaga pinapagalitan ko kasi yung mga bawal, yun po yung ginigift pa nila. I'm sure alam ni Dina po yan. Kung ano yung bawal. Tapos, wala. Syempre naman, diba? We want to appreciate them. So, kakainin naman natin yung mga gifts
Oh,
nila. So,
syempre.
as a way of saying
Oo.
thank you, yeah.
'Di ba?
Right.
Pagmamahal ng mga fans sa inyo yan eh. Pero I know
Yeah.
what you 'di ba minsan pag sobrang dami na ng tsokolate, patay tayo diyan, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Dina, I go to you. Ikaw naman, anong importante? Pinaka-importante sa training regimen mo?
Definitely strength and conditioning.
Okay, nice.
So, at some point, we really focused on our endurance, on our strength nga and our conditioning because that also helps us during real matches. So, lagi namin inalagaan yung body namin. Bukod dun sa sinabi ni Dani na diet kasi it's also really part. Kasi syempre, you really have to balance. Pero syempre, to prevent injury as well. So, that's really one thing na inaalahan talaga ng athlete to prevention of injuries. And syempre, bukod doon, mental health as well. So, yun.
Aha. Dina, sabi mo, strength and conditioning. Pero, ito I'm sure matatawa kayo dito. Maraming athletes na there would come a point mas gusto lang natin maglaro eh, 'di ba? Minsan yung training minsan nakakatamad eh, 'di ba? Especially if you do it every day kasi ang competition din naman every day. Dina, how do you overcome that? How do you tell yourself, Dina, stop. Kailangan mo magpakondisyon. Kailangan mo mag-ensayo. Si Dani natatawa na diyan, no? Paano mo ginagawa 'yon, Dina?
Actually, that's really normal for some athletes na we tend to forget to do strength and conditioning. Kasi nga, well, being an athlete, ang gusto mo talaga maglaro talaga.
Maglaro
Pero I
lang,
think it
oo.
requires, it really requires a lot of discipline and perseverance, determination na you really have you really have to do what you have to do. So kasi ang iniisip ko, hindi ka naman makapaglaro kung na-injured ka, 'di ba? So kailangan mo talaga unahin yung disiplina mo sa pagiging condition, tsaka
Oo.
yung strength and conditioning overall. So yun.
Dani, agree ka ba dun sa shinare ni Dina na pagdating sa competition, syempre, ang kalaban mo yung nasa opposite side ng court, no? Pero pag ensayo, pag strength and conditioning, kalaban mo yung sarili mo, no? Diba? You
Yeah.
have to make sure that you are on point, di ba?
Yes, I think I super agree with Dina, everything that she said, but siguro my realization from fresh from college and then now in the pros, yung difference niya, nagulat ako, sabi ko parang ang dami kong time because syempre, no, less classes, I only have one class per week.
Oo.
And then after training, unlike in Ateneo, we used to have thrice a day training. And then
Wow.
now, once lang. Diba? So, parang ninibago ko after training, parang wala, bored na ako sa bahay, ano pwede gawin. But then again, that's where, being an athlete comes in. You have to really spend your time well, not only doing extra work, but also the amount of rest that you put in. That's also crucial. And yun nga, we're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
So we have to take care of our bodies as much as we get older, syempre mas prone tayo sa mga injuries. And to avoid that, we have to invest a lot of time and a lot of effort sa strength and conditioning, which is, plays a crucial role in, the careers of all athletes, not just volleyball players, but basically all sports talaga.
Dani, may minention kang key term recovery, no? Quickly, after training, after the game, how many hours of sleep ang sa tingin mo kailangan mo? Ikaw as Dani Ravena, para the next day, you can do it all over again. Mga ilang hours ka?
24.
Uh, tulad, lagi ko po roommate si Dina. Lagi ko roommate po si
Actually,
Dina. So
in
alam na
Thailand.
how much I love to sleep. But,
Si,
now,
si Dina na ang sumagot para sa iyo. 24 hours, Dina?
alam niyo na,
Kailangan
if
ito?
there's time,
Ni
I'll just
Dani?
sleep. Yeah. Ni Dina knows. Pero, now, now siguro,
At least 8.
minimum talaga po at least 6 hours for me. Like, I get
6 hours
cranky
ka?
na pag sa training, pag less than. But 6 to 8 hours. More than 8, my head starts to hurt na, and I don't feel na I'm as productive in training as I am when it's like 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So,
Ikaw Dina, gano'n din? Around that number? Mga 6 to 8 hours?
Siguro ganun, pero I see to it na at least really 8 hours.
8
So,
hours. 8 hours.
yeah. Kasi
But, ba't ka natatawa dyan? Share mo naman. Mukhang meron kang mga fans
wala
din
po,
dyan sa...
wala po, ako lang po dito.
Okay. Alam mo, I have to say this also, no, dun sa mga young viewers natin, na 6 to 8 hours, sinasabi ni Dani, sabi ni Dina. Pero yung 6 to 8 hours, huwag naman kayo matulog ng 1:00 ng umaga. Tapos, di ba, gigising kayo ng 9:00 ng umaga. Wag. Pinaka-optimal pa rin talaga, nasa mga 9 p.m., di ba, 9:30, lights out na. And then get your 6 to 8 hours from there, di ba? Okay. Ito, maganda to. Hi, Dina and Dani. We're gonna flash it on the screen. Uh, ito muna. How long have you been consuming Gatorade? From JC ito. And how has it helped you in your training and games? Dani, I'll start with you. Gaano katagal ka na nag-Gatorade? At gaano ba ito nakakatulong sa'yo sa training tsaka sa actual competition?
that I don't think count the years of how long I've been drinking Gatorade, even since I started playing badminton pa lang po. I'm as an athlete kasi, if you want to recover well, if you want to have something to help you boost your energy, keep that energy throughout the game, it's always that go-to Gatorade. So, siguro ilan years na, and then as I grew older, I also discovered that it's not just during games that Gatorade helps me a lot, but more so recovery. When I'm at home, if I
Aha.
feel a little bit drowsy or down, especially during the pandemic, I would just drink Gatorade and try to hydrate, and I feel a lot better after.
Any favorite sa mga flavors? Kasi ako, yung pinaka-paborito ko yung grape eh. Ikaw, meron ka bang paborito,
Ah,
Dani?
the OG ako, the blue one. OG,
Talaga?
ano. Ah,
Oo, pati si Dina. O yung mga fans sila Dani and Dina, baka doon na rin kayo sa blue, di ba? Para...
yeah, sold out na yung blue.
Dina, ikaw naman, how long have you been consuming Gatorade? And paano ba ito nakakatulong sa'yo? Training and game-wise?
Honestly, I've been a very fan of Gatorade even from before. So, um, well, my teammates know it, my management knows it talaga kasi matagal ko na sinasabi na gusto ko mag-Gatorade, ganito, ganyan. Pero I think I've started consuming Gatorade when I started playing volleyball. So, I think that was grade 6. Tas,
Grade 6.
naging ano na siya kasi nung college namin sa Ateneo, I think that was our drink, our energy drink during games, especially. And now in the pro, it's one of our sponsors. So it has helped me through a lot. I think, yun nga, it's my go-to drink, especially Well, paminsan nga hindi na nga ako nagtutubig, eh. Nagge-Gatorade na ako lagi sa training tsaka sa game. So, you rarely see me drink water. So, I think that shows how a fan I am sa Gatorade.
Kayong dalawa ba, did it ever happen to you na na-dehydrate kayo sa isang game? Huwag na yung training, dahil minsan baka mamaya, especially yung nag-aaral kayo, 'di ba? Baka kulang sa tulog. You go to practice 3 times a day ang ensayo, talagang minsan ma-dehydrate ka. Pero sa games, nangyari na ba 'yan? And kung na-dehydrate kayo, how did it affect your performance? Dani, I'll go back to you. Ikaw.
Oh, definitely. I think yung pagod ko kasi I'm a very, Dina knows this, I'm a bad person on and off the court. So, non-stop yung salita ko, as in siga, whatever. So I get really dehydrated quick. But, especially as a libero, you have to keep on moving. Kailangan non-stop yung galaw mo. Um, it gets frustrating when you know that your energy is not the same as it was during the first set, especially when
Oo.
it comes to the fifth setter matches, tapos nagdidikitan pa yung score. You want to make sure na your energy stays consistent or even gets higher as you play longer. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but that's why you prepare for it also, and you have the right tools with you, so you always have that booster of energy, which is for me, of course, the Gatorade drink talaga.
Buti sana 'no, buti sana kung hanggang 3 sets ng lahat ng laro, 'di ba? Pero minsan, 'di ba?
Yeah.
'Di na, umaabot na ng 5 sets tapos minsan extended set
14
pa,
all pa.
'di ba?
14 all pa.
Extended set pa. So, Dina, ikaw naman, nung na-dehydrate ka sa isang laro, ah, anong 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 effect naman nun sa game mo? Just like what Danny shared ba? Pareho ba?
More or less the same naman. Pero kasi when you get dehydrated during a game, hindi naman sa sobrang naka-affect siya, pero syempre humihina ka, parang you run out of breath. Especially me as a setter, kung si Dani non-stop na galaw, ako rin parang non-stop na takbo kasi you really don't know where the ball goes, and it's my job to be able to get the second ball always. So
Oo.
syempre pag you really get dehydrated from time to time, especially after long rallies, yun talaga.
Oo,
Kasi
yeah.
lahat na lang saan pumupunta yung bola. So, ayun, parang minsan wala ka ng lakas or like, yun nga, you really run out of breath. So, well, Gatorade to the rescue, di ba? So,
I
Thankful
like
po
what you
kami
said
sa
there.
Gatorade, Sir Chicky. Kasi sa Ateneo, ako po nag-receive kay Dina. So kahit saan po talaga pupunta yung bola, kaya pagod na pagod po si Dina nung ako
grabe
yung nag-receive.
naman.
So,
Hinahabol niya, 'di ba? Kasi
so
'di ba?
thank you Gatorade for keeping Dina energized always.
Woo!
Kasi ikaw ang first ball, 'di ba? Sa habulin
Oo, sorry. Akin. Walang
ni
receipt.
Dina 'yan.
Okay,
So,
isang set.
Oh,
so
yeah.
so ang ganda ng shiner ninyo, no, na when you get dehydrated, importante talaga that you replenish itong mga lost fluids sa katawan ninyo. And really, that's when Gatorade comes in. Nothing hydrates better than Gatorade. You have to put in all those lost fluids to be able to compete at a high level, 'di ba? So, speaking of competition, okay? Marami tayong Marami kayong fans. We have over 8,000 watching us right now. Different ages ito, ah. So, nandiyan yung mga bata, nandiyan yung mga kaedada ninyo, nandiyan din yung mga kaedada namin na humahanga sa inyo. And they always want to ask athletes, in this case, kayong dalawa, anong mindset ng isang Dani Ravena, mindset ng isang Dina Wong when it comes to sports? Not just volleyball, okay? When it comes to sports, anong mindset mo, Dani? Anong mindset mo, Dina? Dani, I'll start with you.
Syempre for me, ang bigat na agad ng last name ko eh. Even before I entered the volleyball world, it's like there's pressure for me to be this great athlete. And, I always say this, before it used to bother me a lot na parang it sucks na parang I'm in this position, I'm this family because I just want to play, and then everyone's
Mm.
already saying their opinions about me. They don't even know how I play. They don't even know how hard I work. But as I grew older, it's like the pressure that comes with it. Other athletes, they want that attention kasi syempre in this field, para kailangan mo talaga na may tumitingin sa'yo so that you can be recognized. And with me and my family, it's like we don't even have to do anything. So instead of looking that as some sort of a negative thing, it's something positive for me because it shows na parang everyone's really expecting a lot from you. It means that they know that you can be someone great. They know that you can achieve a lot, like from my parents to my brothers. So yung pressure siguro, for my mindset, it's really, I just have to do play my game. That's it. I don't put in unnecessary thoughts in my head. Whatever other people say, it's up to them. Who I will listen to is up to me. My parents, I will listen to them. Of course, my coaches, the people na I trust that surrounds me. Syempre yun naman yung pinapakinggan natin dapat.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually everything else will follow. The people will see you. The people will recognize you. Syempre if you're doing well. So, yun na yung mindset ko. Just really play my game, and then eventually everything will follow talaga.
Great answer, Dani. Alam mo, while I was listening to you, looking at the comments here, I think the fans and the volleyball world would agree na kahit na may Ravena yung pangalan mo, ginawa mo yung Dani eh. Ikaw yun eh. 'Di ba? Tumulong yung Ravena in pushing you, but it was you who created Dani Ravena. And ako, I tip my hat off to you. I salute you for that. Continue being
Thank
a great inspiration to athletes. Dina, ikaw naman, anong mindset mo when it comes to sports? Kasi not only do you represent the volleyball community, ang Ateneo, yung team mo ngayon sa PVL, not, pati Cebu, di ba? Don't forget that. Mga Cebuano, they look up to you. So, what's your mindset when it comes to sports, Dani? Dina, sorry.
Um, well, when it comes to sports, my mindset really is to win, syempre. But with that, it also becomes being a great athlete. Pero, ayun, yung great athlete kasi, for me, the definition of it doesn't mean you being great in that sport, but it also means you being remembered by everyone. Kasi malaki yung impact na nabigay mo sa kanila. And with everything else, syempre, yung mindset ko rin na you experience setbacks, you experience failures, and from there, you get to improve and become a better person. So, yun po yung sa akin. So, hindi ko na masyadong hawain kasi ang galing na nasagot ni Danny. So, yun lang po yung sa akin.
Oh, wow. I mean,
Guys,
Iba
what you mentioned is really good dahil at the end of the day, 'di ba, yung gusto mo maalala ka ng tao for the right reasons. And just like Danny, Dina, I would say I watch you play also. Ang galing ng demeanor mo inside the court, magaling din ang demeanor mo outside the court. And you guys are, if I would to use an adjective, perfect role models for any sport aficionado, ha? So, ang sarap ano, it's 6:04 in the evening. I wanna continue our kwentuhan pero unfortunately good things will have to come to an end. But bago ka umalis, Danny, at mag-prepare sa trip mo tomorrow for your trip to Iloilo and Bacolod, um, final words muna sa mga fans ni Dani Ravena, fans ng the sporting community, okay, volleyball fans. I'll give you the floor, Danny, to give your final message. Go ahead, Danny.
I just want to say, of course, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much sa lahat ng sumuporta sa akin during my Ateneo career. Now, moving on to the pros, Akari. We're a new team. Very excited to play for you guys. Excited na rin makalaban si Dina. So, very, very, kumbaga, we're just really so thankful. And, of course, to my Gatorade family, thank you all always for having my back, my family's back since the beginning of our career. So I'm just excited to move forward. And Sir Chicky, thank you for today. Dina, thank you. Nakakamiss to. So, yun lang. Sana nag-enjoy lahat ng viewers. Keep supporting us. Keep supporting me, the community here. So,
Thank you, Dani. Thank you. But don't go yet. Dina, ikaw naman dahil sa ganda sabi ni Dani from dating roommates, excited siya makalabang ka na sa sa next tournament. But Dina, your message to your fans, to the volleyball community, to the sporting community, please, the floor is yours.
Like I always say, thank you everyone very much sa lahat ng sumuporta. So, hindi lang ako, well, all of us, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. So, kayo yung isa na dahilan kung bakit kami andito and hope you really continue to support us all the way. Matalo man, manalo man, andyan pa rin kayo. So, maraming salamat po sa lahat. Daghang salamat at gigugma ko kayo. O, diba, Sir Chiki?
I love that. Dagan salamat. Dagan salamat, Dina Wong. And volleyball fans, I hope you enjoyed this. Our sports fans, I hope you enjoyed our session with Dani, Ravena, and Dina Wong. We are close to 9,000, ladies. We are close to 9,000 viewers. And silang kasama natin bago maghapunan. So, once again, palakpakan natin Dani, Ravena, and Dina Wong. Before I let you go, lahat naman ng schools, gusto natin, di ba? Lasal, UST, San Beda, San Sebastian, lahat po yan. Lahat, pero nagkataon lang ho na natsambahan lang that we all came from the same same school, one alma mater, iba-ibang batches lang. So, bago tayo maghiwa-hiwalay, ha? Let's do this, ladies, together with me. I say, 1!
big!
Bye!
Dani Ravena, Dina Wong, thank you very much. Continue to fly high. Continue to fly high. Continue to reach great heights. And continue to inspire everyone. Everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Volleyball,
Thank you.
volleyball man yan o hindi, ha? Thank you. And ingat sa biyahe tomorrow, Dani. And good luck sa PVL din, Dina.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Stay safe. Dagan
Thank you.
salamat.
Deans.
Wow! Ang sarap naman nun. I enjoyed that. Thank you to all our fans who stay with us. Meron pa kami isang sorpresa para sa inyo. Dahil kung natuwa po kayo kay Dina and Dani, we have one more special guest for today making an equally special appearance. She was also a former player of the Ateneo de Manila University Lady Eagles and is currently the team captain of the Creamline Cool Smashers. Walang iba kundi si Alyssa Valdez. And right now, she is in Thailand in between games. In between games. And we were lucky enough to ask her a few of our burning questions early on. So we'd like to share this with you, our short moment in between games in Thailand, former Lady Blue Eagle, Alyssa Valdez. Enjoy.
I'm Alyssa Valdez and welcome to all the GSSI Webinar Series 2022 participants. Hello guys! Pre-game and pre-training because I have to be ready for the intense and quality training given by our coaches. I want to prepare my body and my mind to all the situations na pwedeng mangyari during practice. So that's why it's very important for me to really prep and really prepare everything na pwede kong gawin para handang-handa ako sa training namin. And also the cool down after practice, it's very important for me na makapag-cool down because you wanna tell your body na it's time to rest and recover. Being a female athlete, one thing na experience ko talaga would be the girl thing. I'm not sure if all or most of us na girls na into sports experience dysmenorrhea, but that's one thing I'm experiencing most of the time. During practice, during games, I would feel super intense abdominal pain and I feel so weak. Scientifically also, very aware din naman na yung mga coaches and mga trainers namin. So, they know what to do. You've learned different things in different, parang during sa different stages ng volleyball career mo. During elementary, you learn the basics. You learn to be patient. When I was in high school, I probably learned how to do different skills also. When I went to college, it's applying everything. Now that I'm in the pro, it's actually transitioning or adapting different coaching style. Totoo talagang nag-evolve ang aking preparation when I was still young, but I think I was on the right track because I was surrounded by very knowledgeable and smart people that helped me really make it to a point na yung performance ko and siguro yung laro ko would still be there kahit anong mangyari. Siguro example would be, yun nga, simula high school pa lang, invest na kami sa weights training. And pagdating ng college, I was very prepared sa mga things na pinapagawa din ng coaches namin kasi I'm well aware na ganun pala dapat ang pag-aalaga sa katawan. Nutrition also, meron din kaming nutritionist when we were in high school. Nung college, I just maintained it. And then, ngayon sa pro, alam mo yun, parang given na kung ano yung mga dapat mong gawin, nasanay ka na disiplina ka na when I was in high school and college. I watch what I eat. It's basically nutrition talaga eh. You have to keep in check talaga your nutrition kasi that's where you get your energy para mo-sustain mo lahat and ma-maintain mo yung performance mo. And one thing that I'm really learning up to now talaga is you have to be hydrated all the time. Yun talaga basically, when I got sick, that's one thing the doctor said na parang kailangan hydrated ka palagi. All the time. Lagi ka dapat hydrated. One thing na I've learned then is that to have parang mga whey protein but help us really gain more muscle that will help us play better and perform better. So that's it. Honestly, wala naman kaming gender-specific things to do also and to eat na sinasabihan kami din ng mga coaches namin. To all the aspiring athletes out there, all I want to say is it's never too early to take care of your bodies. Invest as early as now kasi most especially sa health natin and sa nutrition natin. Because ako as a player, I'm lucky that I was surrounded by great people who really invested on that. That's why up until now I can still play and still maintain all the things that I've invested. So I think that's all, and don't forget to also enjoy, have fun, and sometimes you'll encounter some failures, mistakes, but at the end of the day, that will make you stronger and better individuals and better athletes. So I hope to watch you guys soon. You guys are the future of Philippine sport. So see you guys soon.
Wow! Maraming salamat, Alyssa Valdez, for allotting time para sa ating short session with you. Okay, so we're down to our last segment. Ito na yung magbibigay kami ng mga papremyo. Stay with us. We got only 8 questions. If you answer correctly based on the 2 presentations earlier, you get to bring home all these prizes. We got the Gatorade shirt, okay? Meron tayo nung socks, meron tayo nung squeeze bottle, and all of these will be put inside our Gatorade backpack. So, first question, ito na. Trivia natin. First question. Again, all you gotta do is answer it. Yung pinakauna makakasagot po niyan will bring home that bag. Our team, social media team, will be messaging you directly kung kayo po yung unang sumagot first to answer any of our 8 questions. Okay? Here we go. First question. I hope you took down notes earlier. What is a form of physical activity that is designed to improve muscular fitness by exercising a muscle against external resistance. Let me say it again. What is a form of physical activity that is designed to improve muscular fitness by exercising a muscle against external resistance? So, boom. Answer away. Konting clue. 2 words yan. 2 words yan. Ha? 2 words po yan. Answer right away. First to answer will bring home one of the 8 backpacks. Okay. We go to question number 2. True or false? Male athletes are 2 to 6 times at risk of injury as compared to female athletes. Once again, male athletes are 2 to 6 times at risk of injury as compared to female athletes. Answer true or false. Type away, guys. Type away. I go to question number 3. Ito, pagalingan kayo ng sagot dito. Share a reason why you need to do strength training. Go! Share a reason why you need to do strength training. All right. 3 questions down, 5 to go. I go to question number 4. Labasan natin yan. There you go. What percentage of sports science research is specific to women? I repeat, what percentage of sports science research is specific to women? May clue ako. Hindi sosobra ng 10%. Ayan May clue na yan Hindi sosobra ng 10%. So, ilan na lang yung pagpipilian mo? 1 to 9 na lang yan. Okay? I go to question number 5. Simple ulit. True or false lang po ulit po ito. Properly designed resistance training programs are safe and effective. Ulit. Properly designed resistance training programs are safe and effective. True or false? Type away. We go to question number 6. What is a common problem women encounter while exercising? Ulit. What's a common problem women encounter while exercising? Sa latter part nung presentation ni Doc Sam, yan yung una kong tinanong Yung 2 words, di ba? Pero, ano yung problemang na-encounter ng women while exercising? That's number 6. Okay? We jump to number 7. What macronutrients, anong macronutrients po ang essential during exercise? What macronutrients are essential during exercise? That's question number 7. And then, finally, question number 8. What micronutrients are essential? Teka lang So, pareho yung number 7 and 8 natin. Tama ba? Micro pala. Okay, sorry. So, yung number 7, what macronutrients are essential during exercise? Number 8, what yun pala, micronutrients are essential during exercise? Type away, guys. So, 8 winners will bring home a shirt, Gatorade shirt, Gatorade pair of socks, a squeeze bottle, and a Gatorade backpack. And as mentioned, our social media team will be reaching out to you guys kung kayo po yung nanalo. So please, abangan nyo po yan. One more. Sa dulo nito, may QR code pa po tayo. So that's it today, folks, for our 3rd session. Thank you so much for attending the 3rd leg of our GSSI Webinar Series 2022. And I hope you learned a lot from our esteemed experts and athletes. And for those of you who stayed all the way up to the last segment, we're going to be flashing our QR code right after I say bye-bye to you guys so you can get your certificate of participation. And take note that ito pong QR code na to, itong certificate of participation, and the QR code will only be accessible for a very limited time. So when this live video ends and na-upload na po ito sa Gatorade Facebook page, yung registration for certificates will be closed. So abangan nyo yung QR code na yan. Make sure that you access the registration link immediately when you see that QR code. Having said that, our next session, our final session after 2 weeks, September 29. Tama, September 29. It will be all about endurance, the science behind how you can play harder, longer, and stronger. Tignan nyo, loaded yan, no? Si Fer Caceres, Nico Welgas, Kim Mangrobang, si Coach Annie De Leon Brown, and of course, we have our GSSI principal scientist, Dr. Michelle King. So it's gonna be a loaded day on September 29. That's a Thursday, 4 p.m. po yan. Dito pa rin sa ating Gatorade Facebook page for your GSSI webinar 2022. So, having said that, guys, maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. 6:21 in the evening. Chicky, Brother Benga Reyes here saying thank you very much for watching our third episode, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for our fourth and final episode for your GSSI webinar series 2022. Good night. Stay safe. Have a good dinner. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, guys.